And Republican presidential candidates are scheduled to face off in the fourth debate of the party's 2024 nominating contest next Wednesday. It will take place at the University of Alabama, hosted by our network, NewsNation. Joining me now is Blake Burman. Blake is the chief Washington correspondent for NewsNation. Blake, welcome to Capitol Review.
Hey there, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing fine, sir. Thank you for your time. Tell us about this debate. What do the candidates have to do to win over voters?
Well, look, this is going to be the last debate, Mark, but before Iowa and New Hampshire, right? There's, 4 or 5 weeks time in between then. You mix in the holidays, of course. So there's really just a short window, at least on a national scale, for these voters to make their pitch before, caucus goers in Iowa, the first in the nation primary voters in New Hampshire, actually end up putting their name behind a candidate. So, there's been 3 debates before this. This, of course, is the 4th one. And look, the stakes here are important because what have we seen from these debates? I would argue you've seen the rise of Nikki Haley, right? She was polling in the low single digits, give or take, at any point in time. And then the debate season happened and her arrow started going up and to the right since then. And I guess you could say almost the opposite maybe for Vivek Ramaswamy and even Ron DeSantis. There's going to be, I would suspect, a lot of attention on Nikki Haley to see if she can continue forward on this trajectory, what these candidates say before, over the next couple weeks. And then maybe we take a couple weeks off at the end of the year and our attention really gets into focus on Iowa and New Hampshire. But also keep in mind, too, this is their attempt to try to claw as much as possible to close the gap with Donald Trump, because as we've seen in the polling, Mark, when you look at it on a national level, he's above 50%. State by state, he's at or just below. So these candidates have a lot of work to do, and this debate is clearly one way for them in the upcoming weeks to try to close that gap bit by bit, if they can.
Well, Blake, how is this debate going to be different from the previous 3?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think the calendar, as I mentioned, has a lot to do with it, right? The first one's obviously the first one, and the first 3, a month and then a month and then another month. But now as we get to the 4th one, this is sort of it. It's go time, right? We're in December. There's been a lot of anticipation, a lot of buildup going into Iowa and New Hampshire. And we're not talking about months now, Mark. We're talking about weeks into days. So like I mentioned, this is sort of not necessarily, I don't want to say it's the last attempt for them, but it's very, very clearly one of the last attempts to try to close that gap between themselves and the former president. Well,
this is certainly a big moment for NewsNation. What does it mean for the network?
Yeah, it's a huge moment, right? We are going to get a national audience, a massive audience. Obviously, we are a network all across the country. But anytime you talk about a presidential debate, it just brings more attention to what we're building here at NewsNation, not focusing on one side or the other, the partisanship and the tribal sides of politics, but really focusing on what people all across the country are talking about, the big events, the big news. And obviously, this debate sort of fits into that, as there are going to be folks, I would imagine, from both sides of the political aisle tuning in and wanting to see what these candidates have to say. And I think it's going to be a great representation of what we do here on NewsNation, day in and day out, around the clock, Mark.
All right, Blake Burman, thank you very much for joining us.
You got it. Have a good one.
So don't forget, tune in Wednesday, December 6th for Republican primary debate. That starts at 8 p.m. The debate will also be streamed live on all NewsNation platforms and will also air on the CW.